Giri Nathan. I was in class of 2013, and I'm a staff writer and co-founder at a company called Defector Media. We write mostly about sports and like their surrounding social and political context, and try to keep a sense of humor about it. Um, I won't bore you with all the gory details, but our company has a kind of weird origin story. We used to all work together at a popular sports website, and then we had a long falling out with management that had been installed by a private equity firm. And we felt that that management was betraying the basic editorial vision of the site. And one day they fired our top editor, and then the whole rest of our staff quit by the end of the week. And this new project, Defector, rose from the ashes of that. So we had this opportunity to build something new with a lot of goodwill from our readers, and we tried to build it in line with our ideals. So the company is worker owned, and we've put a lot of measures in place to make sure that it's governed responsibly and equitably. So far, the experiment's going pretty great, and we're closing in on 40,000 subscribers 6 months in, and I'm just happy because my job is basically to write about what I'm interested in. So personally, I write about tennis and basketball, anything else happened to be into at the time. So I've done an interview with a competitive vegetable grower in Wales. I've written a profile of the shortest elite tennis player, and the site is at any given point is the sum of what the staff happens to be interested in at that time, and there's no broader mandate than that. I was the editor in chief for 2 years. So the first year was with Zach Newick, and the second year was with Rafi Abrahams. Both very fun. And at the beginning of that 2 year run, the NAS was a pretty skeletal operation. So what I did was a little bit of everything. Started with assigning articles, editing the articles, picking up the paper from the printers, distributing the paper, kind of the full farm to table NAS experience, and most importantly, trying to remind people that the NAS existed and that you should consider writing for us. So by the end of that 2 year run, we'd kind of lucked into a really great and really enthusiastic um, staff of underclassmen who took on a lot of the heavy lifting, and it really felt like we were leaving it in good hands. So the NAS was really good for shaping an overall sensibility that proved useful later in life. It's just, you could say it's the general alt weekly sensibility, but you're deeply immersed in a community, but you also have some critical distance from it. And you kind of have to be deep inside the belly to make the best criticisms of it. So it's really valuable at a place like Princeton where you have the widespread sort of unquestioning reverence of tradition and the way stuff is done. But then you have these writers who are poking holes in that picture here and there, even if they are learning a lot and generally enjoying their time on campus. So I think that's similarly valuable in sports, which a lot of viewers want to love in this apolitical and unmediated way. But also, a lot of people want a more critical and reflective coverage of. So if you're in that subset of the audience, you want coverage that shares your values. It makes you feel like you aren't alone and you aren't losing your mind. You want coverage that reflects the way you talk about stuff with your friends. So I would say our staff at Defector has a sincere love of sports, but also an understanding that they are stupid and corrupt and reactionary in many ways. And our writing reflects both our raw enjoyment of people doing cool dunks, but also our skepticism of the structures in place that make the dunks possible. So the balance required for that kind of dance is something that I got a lot of practice with writing for the NAS. I have a lot of fond memories of arguing over cover images and issue titles with Rafi Abrahams and Joel Neuberger. I really miss those arguments. But I think the bigger overarching memory was just the weekly meetings. And I'd say most of the stuff I missed from Princeton a year out seems kind of bizarre now that I have a little more removed from it. But the weekly meetings, I would still go to those. I got a little sappy about this when I was writing um, a piece for the NASA's 40th anniversary issue, but it was a really nice blend of low stakes ideation and just enough social pressure to push that idea that you had in your head onto the page. And there were also on Thursday evening, so it sort of signified that thinking about work had stopped for the week and you were transitioning over to the weekend and thinking about whatever else was moving through your mind. So we were just sitting in this room, kind of popcorning goofy ideas around. It goes without saying that we only wrote and published like 15 or 20% of what was ever decided at those pitch meetings, but that kind of space you can't really replicate in the real world. And I think most professional workplaces probably frown on Bud Light Lime. Um, Not mine, but most of them, I think.